What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Royale YouTube channel. It is off season, kind of. If you're watching this on the day that I recorded it and putting it out, it is on a Monday of the championship weekend, so you guys are still winning your championships, but it's close. And we are doing a Dynasty mock draft. We are going to go big on this one, 14 team, because that's what you guys asked for here on the channel, and Superflex mock draft. We're going to be looking at player values, positional tiers, where they're at right now. I know there's a bunch of degenerates out there doing startups. They're starting to get ready to understand, like, hey, we're going to do some Dynasty mocks. So let's dive into what we see, where the tiers are, where the value's at, and go from there. All right, let's get into it. So, like I said, we're going to do a Dynasty mock draft, 14-team Superflex. And I think the bigger the draft, the better in terms of this. I know 14-team is an actually pretty good it is a format that a lot of people like to play because I think it's more challenging when we're thinking of 14 teams, especially in Superflex and with the quarterbacks there. So let's dive into it. So like always, I invited a bunch of people on the channel, on Fantasy Twitter, on the community out there, and we mocked it up and we saw how it goes. So here's rounds 1 through 3. Let's talk about it. So you can always stop it, pause it, and go through here. And I'm always going to give you guys my 3 kind of my biggest value change, favorite pick, and least favorite pick of the first 3 rounds. But remember, this is 14 teams, so there's a bigger in here. So when we're looking at the board, I think the first thing, biggest value change is Jonathan Taylor. So we are not seeing running backs get drafted in the first round. So I've done tons of these mocks in the season so far, and a lot of times I think people are just going 0 running back now, and so that's something to adapt to, especially with the quarterbacks going off the board. You see the quarterbacks there. There were only 2 non-quarterbacks taken in the first round of this mock, and that's Jefferson and Chase. And so we're going to talk about those teams and how they kind of finished out. But you just look at it there. I think Jonathan Taylor, he's going at the 205, 207, 209 in those areas, just like you see CMC and Breece Hall there. And I think that's a value change, right? He was originally, even in Dynasty last year, 104 was kind of a common place he was going. Now he's not. Favorite pick on this is Justin Fields. I probably should have took Fields instead of Lamar. I was kicking myself a little bit after this, but I think Fields is great in that spot. Like, I think that there is a clear tier after those top 8 quarterbacks right there. Depending on what you guys think of, Watson has not been playing well. Tua might retire. Lance just came out his ankle. He's having issues a little bit with that. Then you got Prescott and Murray, and they're Prescott is good. I still like Prescott, but then you got Murray, question marks there, ACL, and then there's a value, right? So when you're thinking of that, I think my favorite pick is Fields because I think that you're going to get you're getting a top 5 guy. Like his rushing upside is Konami code. I know people are questioning his arm, but like that rushing upside is nothing to look at, sneeze at. Now, least favorite pick, I think it's Kirk Cousins. And it's not that I don't like I hate the pick, right? Kirk Cousins, fine. I just think in Dynasty with his age, where he's at, I understand the stack in the Cousins Jefferson stack there. And I love Jefferson pick there, but this is the risk you take with not taking a quarterback in that first round, is that you're going to be straddled with quarterbacks after. So we're going to look at this tiers. And so that's just something to look at. Like, hey, you look what he went with Jefferson, Cousins, and then you got Najee Harris. And I think Cousins is a reach there in terms of who goes after him. You're thinking Waddle, Hall, Higgins, some of these guys that can maybe really be great dynasty assets going forward, where Cousins is 1 to 2 years. So win now, definitely. And we're going to take a look at his team. But overall, like, I get it. I understand. It's not that I hate the pick. It's just that I understand, you put yourself in a hole if you don't take a quarterback in that first. But then you can also argue that there's some question marks with those quarterbacks in the first. Watson, Tua, those guys there, right? Now, I wanted to just take a look at positional tiers in this thing. So I just put the top 3 up there. The biggest thing that stands out to me is the running backs, right? So when you look at the running backs in the positions there, so Taylor's running back 1, CMC 2, Hall is 3. Then you got Barkley at running back 4 off the board, Walker at 5, Harris at 6, ETN at 7. So and then, Eckler at 8. So you're looking at those tiers. There's interesting how none of them went in the first round, like we mentioned. Just understanding, like, CMC's popping back up at running back 2. And I think you just got to understand the value of the running back position. I think that you're going to have to, it depends on how you want to build your team. I'm an anchor running back guy. You'll see my draft day. I took Lamar and then Breece Hall. Breece Hall is going to be my anchor, right? Then I'm going to just take wide receiver, pound wide receiver, and I'm going to take a running back in that 8, 9, 10 range. So we're going to go over that. But just right now, based on the positional tiers in that first 3 rounds, you're looking at heavy quarterbacks and wide receivers. Then you're going to going to sprinkle some tight ends in here. That's Pitts and Andrews, really, and that's it. So just understand that going into your mocks, or if you have a dynasty draft coming up because you're a degenerate, you need to understand what those positional tiers are. Now, I wanted to look at quarterbacks, but look at the two teams that didn't take a quarterback in the first round. So I wanted to kind of highlight them to show you what they came away with. So Jefferson, Cousins, we mentioned, and he went all the way down. Then his second quarterback is Brady. I don't think that's actually a terrible pick because I do think Brady's going to come back next year. And so that's not a bad team. The win now, you have Javonte there. He went heavy running backs, Jefferson, and he got Sutton and Renfro and these guys. So interesting way the team build, right? Then you got Mayfield. Hopefully, maybe he comes. Now, remember, this is a 14 team. So when we're talking about 14 team Superflex, that's a lot of quarterbacks that need to be taken. Now, on the other side here, this is the risk you play, right? So Chase, Taylor, Olave, Jacobs, Watson, White, Njoku, Dulcich. So heavy tight ends here, Donovan Peoples-Jones. And then his two quarterbacks are Love and Howe. Now, if you're going like, you're building, it's just a weird roster because you're kind of building for youth, but then you have Jacobs and you have Taylor on there. And I know Taylor's not old. So I get it. Maybe Love gets that starting job. I think Love should, right? So this is just to show you out there, those of you that are watching, what happens when you don't take a quarterback in those first round. And then if you only take one in that second round, or if you don't take one until later in the drafts, what those quarterbacks are looking like. So I just wanted to show you guys what that looks like. Not that I hate the builds or like the builds, it's just to show you kind of your ways that you can maneuver and what it looks like in terms of how you set up your roster and what you build. Now, rounds 4 through 6. So let's go through these guys. And I think there's a ton of value in these rounds. Now, remember, 14 teams, so they're going to have a little bit deeper guys in these picks. But my biggest value change is Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs went at 405, and you're looking at that. He running back 10, running back 10. That's a pretty big value change from when I did this like a month ago. I think he was going in like round 7, 8 still, right? So when we're thinking of this, that's a big value change. So if you have Jacobs on your roster and you want to move him, that's where he's getting valued now. Pause it, look at this and say, okay, can I move him? Where does that look at? My favorite pick is Chris Godwin. I still think Chris Godwin's going to be a legitimate wide receiver 1 on that roster. We've seen Evans kind of fall down. I know the quarterback situation is kind of a concern going forward, but I do think that Godwin can command targets and he'll be that wide receiver 1 on that team. And I think that's good value where he got him. 508. Pretty good where he built wide receiver 1. I think Godwin. So when you're looking in this group of 5, 6, 7 rounds, right? 4, 5, 6, where are my wide receiver 1s at? Where are those guys that are going to get, be the target getters, number 1 target getters? Pittman's out there, when you look Devonta Smith, but he's still got AJ Brown, right? Treylon Burks is there, but that quarterback, that offense, what is that going to be? Pickens, you have Deontay Johnson. DJ Moore could do it, but what does that situation look like next year? Marquise Brown, you still have DeAndre Hopkins. Maybe they move on because they're going to rebuild, right? So maybe you get there. So when you're looking in that 4, 5, 6 range, for me, I'm looking for who can be that wide receiver 1 that steps up, all right? Now, my least favorite pick is still going to be Dameon Pierce. It's not that I don't like Dameon Pierce. It's just I just think that you're still buying him at a ceiling at 411. And there's other guys I probably would have grabbed. I probably would have grabbed Joe Mixon. Ramondre Stevenson went after him. Like there's other guys in that range that I probably would trust a little bit more than Dameon Pierce, just based on what we've seen, the precedent of these running backs. These running backs, they date through capital. I think it's just real with what you're looking at there. Now, let's go to round 7 and 9 and kind of take a look at what those look like. Yeah, so biggest value change for me right off the board is Mac Jones. So when you're looking at round 7 through 9, you're looking at where he's going. He's going after Daniel Jones now. He's going after Jared Goff. He's going after Stafford and Geno. So you're looking at that, and he's going after like QB 15, 16 range now. So I think that is a value change, right? He was still going in the first 3 rounds of Superflex drafts. And when you're looking at mock drafts and value, last past year, Mac Jones has definitely dropped in value. So when we're thinking of value change, Mac is out there. Favorite pick is Calvin. So I'm going to stick with Calvin Ridley in this area. Like, I think this is a good value for where he's going. He can step up into that Jaguars offense, and we've seen that offense do very well. Now, he's going to win at 703 in this one, and that's in a 14-team league with where it's at. So you're thinking that probably 8th, 9th round is where you're going to get him in a 12-team. That's still good value for a guy that probably could command wide receiver 2 type target share and where he's going next year. I like that idea. Now, I caution you if it's going to get too high to stay away, because I do think that there's Kirk, all those guys are going to Ingram if he comes back, ETN. Like there's guys going to command targets in that offense too. But that could be a legitimate offense paired with Trevor Lawrence for at least 2 years. And I think he's a value guy. He's a dynasty buy for me right now if you can go get him. Now, my least favorite pick is just going to be Zach Wilson, because Zach Wilson is terrible, right? Like I don't mind the pick. And this is one of those things that happens when you get into like, 14 team super flex. It's just that you're going to have to reach on one of these guys, and he did. He grabbed Zach, but based on who was around there, I kind of understand it. Brady was already off the board. Tannehill was off the board. And then you got Winston coming, Malik Willis, guys like that. Jimmy G maybe would have been the pick. But again, with the injury, what is that? What's that going to be? So I think it was the lesser of evils. You got to take one of these guys and hope he bounces back. So I get Zach Wilson, but at this point, moving forward with what we've seen from Zach, to me, he's a kind of a stay away, right? But it's not necessarily a bad pick. It's just maybe take someone else, maybe just go one quarterback, and then you swung on Ritter later. Maybe you could have grabbed like an Allen or Cook or Elijah Moore, which you did in that 7th round, and maybe kind of a little bit more value. Now, 10 through 12, when we're looking at what's going on in rounds 10 through 12, and again, remember, these are deeper because this is a 14-team one. But biggest value change is Jordan Love. Jordan Love was not getting drafted in the top 15 rounds, and we've done these for a while now. Top 12 has not been where it's at. I know Superflex is going to play a role in that, but Jordan Love's going to get a shot at some point. I don't know if Rodgers going to move on. There's a lot of talk about him moving on in the offseason. If he does, you're going to see a value bump. So it's not a bad play. I think Jordan Love can play a little bit. He's a little underrated. I think he's going to step in and at least be, the NFL's got a quarterback problem, a starting quarterback problem. So because of that, that's part of it. Like that's really part of it there, with why I put him as his biggest value change, because we actually seen him get drafted in these things. Favorite pick, Jelani Woods. I think that's a good pick by Renshaw there. Tight end. If you're gonna wait on tight end, now he goes bully tight end all the time, and I appreciate his kind of area there. But when you're looking at what he's done, like in PPR, he hasn't been bad. Like when you're looking at 7 points, 17.8 points, he could step up and be that team. If they do get an improvement at that quarterback position, you're looking at like at the late round tight ends, right? So Chiga Okinawa went in that area, Mike Gesicki went in that area, Everett Higbee went in that area, Bellinger, and then Woods, right? So when you're looking at that 12th round, you're really looking at tight ends and where that comes from. And it's not a bad area there, right? So Jelani Woods, good tight end to kind of fill. He went 3 tight ends. I don't know necessarily if I would do that, but if he's your second tight end at that move, I love that. Now, my least favorite pick is Malik Willis. And again, he's a QB3, though. So I understand it's not a terrible pick here because you're at least getting him as your QB3, not your QB2. I just don't see a role for him. I don't see a path to him starting in the NFL. So I just feel like that's a wasted pick. I would have rather taken a shot on like Jordan Love, Desmond Ritter, Wentz, even Wentz maybe, right? Like guys like that you maybe will pop in. We've seen these guys kind of play and progress, but my least favorite pick is Malik there. Now, to give you the final outlook. So let's take a look at everybody's team. So we're just looking at the board, and you could pause it. That's why I do this. So you could kind of say, hey, what's going on here? And if you're still watching, hit that like and subscribe button for us. And then let us know in the chat. Seriously, tell me. I want to communicate and talk this out. Do you see any picks that are off the wall? Like, would you have taken Derek Carr there when you're looking at that 308? Do you think he's a value? How do you feel like he did there in terms of that? Hit it in the chat. Let us know. Now, I do want to highlight 3 teams. So what I always do is I try to highlight 3 teams that I really either like or just talk about the strategy and what they did. So JCJ Dynasty here. I really like this team. Burrow and Andrews. I like that positional values. I might have went Herbert or Hurts, but you can't go wrong with Burrow with what he's doing. 350 fantasy points overall. He's looked good this year. Then you got Andrews, and again, Lamar comes back, whatever that offense is, he's still a top 2 tight end, probably a positional advantage there. I like Garrett Wilson as your wide receiver 1, so that's good. And then you get Kelsey in the 4th. I see what you're doing. You're building win now team with those 2 guys, and I like that. Rodgers, hey, he's going to come back next year. That contract's going to dictate that. Ayuk is there. That's really good. And you got 4 legitimate wide receivers that are going to produce fantasy points, right? Ayuk, really, Lockett, Cooks. You want a little bit of mix of youth and veterans, which I kind of like to do. And then you got Jamal Williams as your running back 1, which you went 0 running back. And everybody out there, hey, 0 running back with Jamal Williams. Look at all the touchdowns Jamal has done. I don't know moving forward what to do with Swift. I mean, that's a good pick there. And then Boyd and Lazard. Now, I pointed this one out partly because I like the build, and secondly because it's 0 running back, so you could see what 0 running back might look like, and again, in a 14-team league. Now, next one I want to kind of look at is Reggie Chunder, and the reason why I pointed his out is like, what do you think this team looks like with 3 quarterbacks? So he went heavy quarterback, and the reason why is that the cheapest quarterback is going to be is in your startup. So just when you think about this, the cheapest that they're going to be is in the startup. So you got Lawrence, Carr, and Pickett there, and I think Carr is fine. Like, I think he's going to find a role next year on a team. So as a quarterback too, that's not bad with CMC. And then you got Godwin, who I really like. Freiermuth in the 6th round might have been kind of a reach with the Njoku still out there in those other areas. But again, if you like Freiermuth and you think that's going to take that next step, you have Pickett on there. Okay. Mike Williams, if he can stay healthy. Evans, kind of trending down, but I get it. But again, 2 Tampa Bay wide receivers. So how does that look, right? What are you going to do? Maybe they move on from Evans, maybe. Algiers not a bad running back, too. That's not actually a terrible move. I like that. Robinson coming off that injury, Moore and Gainwell. So again, I've just wanted to show you guys, what do you think of a 3-quarterback build? Because in a 14-teamer, those positional players go a little bit quicker than you imagine. So you have to hope that your quarterbacks hit so you can keep that value. And if you want to move one of those, that's how you gain value in your dynasty leagues, especially in this type of format. And then the last one, I want to look at Swag Man over here, Sam. Football Guys contributor, Trey Lance in the first. Again, this is the risk you take if you're at that back end of the first, especially with this. I'm surprised he took Lance over Dak Prescott or Kyler Murray. I would have definitely probably done Prescott or Murray over Lance. There's a lot of question marks with those. With 2 of those guys, Murray and Lance. Dak would have been the safer play. I probably would have taken Dak. And then if a quarterback, Lance or Murray, would have fell back to me, getting 2 quarterbacks like Dak and Lance or Dak and Murray in a 14 team, I think was the positional way to go. I understand A.J. Brown there. I like it. But again, just looking at your second quarterback is Winston, who hasn't been able to get on the field. Andy Dalton's been playing above him. And even if the injury, whatever the case may be, I mean, that's questionable, right? Then you have Bateman. I like Pollard. I think whether he gets re-signed or whatever the case may be there. Cook, Mitchell, don't hate, but as your wide receiver 4 being Tony or Chark, Chark's actually a sneaky play. I do like that one. Tony, I probably would have stayed away from, but I just wanted to show you guys here, hey, he probably has no quarterbacks right now. Winston, who knows where he's going to find? Maybe he'll find another role. Lance, I think he's going to be healthy at the beginning of the year next year. He might, but if not, I mean, you're looking at a team that probably is going to be vying for the 101, and maybe he did it that way to where he find that 101, maybe get Caleb Williams, and then you step in and have it. But that's the mock. So just to show you kind of overall what it looks. And we appreciate you guys. Hey, hit that like and subscribe button. Let us know how we're doing. We cannot thank you enough for the support. Think about joining the Patreon. We got a lot of content coming out this month for you guys in the coming months. If you like rookie content, definitely follow me at @theboys_22. Go find my work at Football Guys and find my work here. So I appreciate you guys. Until next time, we'll see you guys later. And hey, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button.